Okay, so welcome to another deep dive. And, as always, we are taking a listener suggestion. Somebody sent in a source and said, hey, I would love for you guys to dive into this and, pull out the key takeaways and really just dissect it. And today's deep dive is the story of David Paco.
Ah, yes.
Now, David Paco is the real person behind the movie War Dogs. And I think the reason that this listener sent it in is because there's so many interesting themes. We've got entrepreneurship, we've got government contracts, we've got kind of unexpected career pivots, and we've got some high stakes, high pressure situations. So yeah, I think this is going to be a good one to dive into. And our mission for this deep dive is to really understand the key moments, decisions, and lessons from David Paco's experiences. And I want you to kind of consider this, like a shortcut, if you will, to understanding his unlikely path and hopefully extracting some actionable insights for you. And, to kind of give you a hook right from the start, imagine you're 24 years old and you manage to secure a nearly $300 million U.S. government contract to supply the Afghan army with ammunition.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that even happen?
Yeah, so David Paco, he's an American entrepreneur, inventor, and musician.
Okay.
He's the subject of this film, War Dogs, which portrays him as an arms dealer.
Right.
He was a partner at this firm called AEY.
Okay.
And interestingly, he estimates that the movie is about 70% accurate.
Wow. 70%. It's actually pretty high for a Hollywood production.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I guess the first question here is, how does someone like this even get into government contracting? I mean, it sounds like such a complex bureaucratic world, right?
Well, he says that the initial spark came from his partner,
Okay.
who's portrayed by Jonah Hill in the movie.
Okay.
And this partner had learned the ropes from his uncle. So it just goes to show the value of mentorship.
Yeah.
Having somebody in your network who has some experience in that field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but I'm curious what David Paco was doing before all these high stakes government deals. What was his kind of entrepreneurial path like?
Well, he had a pretty diverse set of entrepreneurial experiences early on. He studied chemistry.
Okay.
He was a massage therapist, which we see in the movie.
Right.
He brokered bed sheets, importing them from Pakistan and selling to nursing homes.
Wow, that's quite a pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He imported SD cards from China and sold them on eBay.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So he really had this kind of early hustle.
Yeah, so he wasn't afraid to try different things.
Yeah, and find a gap in the market, even if it's for bed sheets or memory cards.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so what was a specific moment, the catalyst that kind of propelled him towards, these government contracts?
The pivotal moment was reconnecting with his partner.
Okay.
He saw that his partner at age 18
Wow.
had $1.8 million in his
Oh.
bank account
From government contracts.
from doing government contracts.
And this was just his partner. This was before David Paco had joined in.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. This was just his partner operating independently out of his apartment.
Wow. That's fascinating. So, the movie makes it seem like it's this really elaborate operation, but it was really just, one person working from their apartment.
Right.
That's amazing. So, but then the question is, how do you go from that to securing a $300 million contract?
Right.
Was it just pure luck?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Actually, he mentioned that the $300 million deal was around their 149th contract.
Wow. No.
So they had already successfully fulfilled smaller munitions contracts in the few $1 million range for Iraq.
Okay.
And this history of successful delivery, what the government calls past performance,
Right.
was critical in demonstrating their capability to handle a significantly larger undertaking.
Yeah, you got to build up that credibility, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about that $300 million negotiation. How do you even begin to formulate a bid for something of that magnitude?
Well, the bid process was incredibly thorough. He recounts spending about 2 months just on price research.
Oh.
They contacted tons of suppliers, including companies in Eastern Europe who were still using fax machines to communicate.
Wow.
And they put together this detailed spreadsheet comparing prices for the goods and the complex logistics of transporting them to Afghanistan.
For really understanding that entire supply chain.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So 2 months just on price research. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so they did all that. What other tactics did they use?
Well, they also employed various negotiation tactics, like you know mentioning competing bids
Oh, sure.
to try and encourage suppliers to lower their prices.
Right.
He notes that his partner was particularly good at making big promises about future business to incentivize suppliers, but those promises weren't always entirely based in reality.
Oh, okay, interesting. So a little bit of salesmanship there.
Yeah,
Okay.
well.
So, but at the end of the day, what was the key that got them the contract?
Well, the decisive factor really was their bid price.
Okay.
They were significantly more competitive, undercutting the next lowest bidder by $52 million.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about a $300 million contract, that's a massive amount.
Right.
Okay, so they bid that low. What kind of profit margin were they looking at?
They initially bid with a target profit margin of around 9%,
Okay.
figuring that most of the competition would likely be, around 10%.
Sure.
But after the contract was awarded, they actually managed to renegotiate some of the supplier prices and logistics costs,
Oh, what?
and ultimately achieved an average profit margin of about 20%.
Wow, so they went from 9 to 20. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so but the government doesn't just look at price, right? I mean, there's got to be other factors for a contract this large.
Yeah, you're right. For contracts of this size, the government's evaluation process, it goes way beyond just the lowest price.
Right.
So they also really scrutinize, things like past performance, which we talked about.
Yeah.
They also look at financial stability.
Yeah.
Demonstrating that you have the funds to support the contract, especially with, net 30 payment terms, which basically
Yeah.
means you get paid 30 days after you deliver.
Right.
So you need a lot of upfront capital or some kind of financing solution in place.
Makes sense.
They also examine the bidder's accounting system to make sure they have the infrastructure and processes in place to manage, such a large financial undertaking.
Right.
And Paco even recalled the government sending a team of contracting officers to actually inspect their facilities and accounting procedures.
Wow, so it's very thorough.
Yeah.
Okay, so they managed to check all those boxes and get this huge contract, but then of course things took a turn.
Right.
Let's talk about this Chinese ammunition issue.
Okay, so this is where the story gets a little complicated. So after they were awarded the contract and they were sourcing the ammunition, they discovered that some of the crates had Chinese markings.
Okay.
And this was a direct violation of their contract with the U.S. Army,
Okay.
which explicitly prohibited the use of Chinese munitions, directly sourced or indirect, because of an arms embargo that had been in place since the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989.
Okay, but I mean, I'm assuming that specific ammunition probably predated the embargo.
Right, but the language in their contract was unambiguous.
So what did they do?
Well, they had a real dilemma.
Yeah.
Do they tell the government and risk losing the contract,
Right.
or do they try and conceal it? So ultimately, they decided not to disclose the issue, and they decided to repackage the ammunition to hide the markings.
That seems incredibly risky.
Yeah.
So how did that decision lead to the unraveling of the whole deal?
Well, it seems like the catalyst for their downfall was a dispute with a contractor they hired for the repackaging.
Yeah.
So this Albanian guy was he was contracted to repackage the ammunition.
Right.
And when they decided to terminate his contract, he requested an additional $20,000 for the extra boxes he had acquired.
Wow.
And Paco's partner refused to pay.
Okay.
And so in retaliation, this disgruntled contractor contacted the New York Times and the FBI.
Oh, wow. So over 20,000.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So what was the immediate fallout?
Well, there was, a lot of media attention.
Yeah.
There was a front page article in the New York Times, which Paco mentions contained some inaccuracies.
Yeah.
The FMIDI launched an investigation, and it became a huge political controversy.
Cool.
Paco and his partner ultimately faced charges of fraud for misrepresenting the origin of the ammunition.
Right.
And Rolling Stone magazine also did an extensive investigative piece.
Wow. So, I mean, this went big.
Yeah.
So what were the legal ramifications for Paco and his partner?
Well, Paco received a sentence of 7 months of house arrest.
Okay.
His partner received a much longer sentence of 4 years in prison.
Okay.
And Paco indicated that this disparity was partly due to a second offense that his partner committed while he was awaiting sentencing, which involved secretly continuing his arms dealing activities.
Oh, wow.
And getting caught in an ATF sting operation.
Wow.
So, kind of compounding his legal trouble.
Right. So he just kept digging that hole deeper. So Paco also mentioned that initially the Justice Department wasn't planning to press charges. So what changed?
Well, he believes that the intense public and political pressure generated by the New York Times article really played a significant role in the Justice Department's, ultimate decision to file charges.
So basically, the New York Times article forced their hand.
Yeah, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's also interesting to note that the government knew that the ammunition was Chinese, and they continued taking deliveries for like 6 months.
Yeah.
So why was that?
Well, Paco explained that the U.S. Army had an urgent need for the ammunition to supply their Afghan allies who were facing shortages during a critical fighting season.
Right.
So it kind of put him in this moral quandary because he was aware of the violation, but he also understood the pressing operational needs.
So between a rock and a hard place.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So after all this, he goes through this legal and ethical storm.
Right.
And, he kind of pivots his career in a really interesting way. So how did he go from being involved in arms dealing to becoming an inventor and an educator?
Well, it started during his house arrest.
Okay.
He had, being confined to his residence, he had a lot more time on his hands.
Right.
He's a musician, so he spent a lot of time playing guitar.
Okay.
And he realized that he was really frustrated with the lack of hands-free control for his drum machine.
Okay.
So this led to his first invention, the Beat Buddy, which is a drum machine pedal.
Interesting. So he took a problem that he personally had, and came up with a solution.
Right.
Okay. And that actually turned into a successful business, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it did. He founded a music technology company called Singular Sound, which has since sold millions of dollars worth of products. He specifically chose to partner with his brother in this venture, citing the importance of trust after his previous experiences.
Yeah.
So kind of speaks to the value of choosing your business partners carefully.
Right, especially after having been through an experience like that.
Yeah.
So then comes InstaFloss, which seems totally unrelated to music technology.
Yeah.
So where did that product come from?
Well, this is an interesting one. So the concept for InstaFloss came about in a rather unique and relatable way.
Okay.
So Paco and his brother were together. They were smoking weed and eating mangoes, and they both experienced the common annoyance of getting mango fibers stuck in their teeth.
Oh yeah, of course. Who hasn't been there?
Yeah, and so recognizing this universal need for a better flossing solution, the idea for InstaFloss was born.
So just from that everyday frustration.
Yeah.
I love it. So for those who aren't familiar, what is InstaFloss?
So InstaFloss is a dental hygiene device that has this H-shaped manifold equipped with 12 water jets.
Okay.
And this allows it to simultaneously floss all your teeth in about 10 seconds, making it much faster and potentially more effective than traditional string floss or even standard water picks, which use a single jet.
Right, right.
It's currently available for purchase online at instafloss.com.
Okay.
The parent company is called EHT Incorporated, which stands for Everybody Has Teeth.
Clever.
And they have plans to expand into retail stores as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so more recently, Paco launched the War Dogs Academy.
Right.
So after he was banned from government contracting for a while, what motivated him to kind of re-engage with that world, albeit in an educational capacity?
Well, so for several years after the release of War Dogs, the movie, he was getting tons of inquiries from people who were interested in learning about government contracting.
Yeah.
And initially he kind of resisted this, because of his past, because he was focused on his other ventures.
Right.
But there was this one message he received from these two guys who had watched War Dogs while they were working on a banana farm in Australia.
Okay.
And they were so inspired by the film
Yeah.
that they spent 6 years independently learning about government contracting, making lots of mistakes along the way, and they've now built a multi-million-dollar business that specializes in laundry services.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and they recently won a $9 million contract with the U.S. Army in Germany.
Wow.
So this really highlighted for Paco, that his experience could be used to guide others.
Yeah. And help them avoid, some of the same mistakes that he made.
Right, kind of shorten that learning curve.
Right. Exactly.
So, I guess for anyone listening, what's the value proposition of the War Dogs Academy? Why should someone, consider, joining it?
Well, the Academy offers a really valuable opportunity to learn from people with firsthand experience.
Sure.
Like Paco himself,
right,
and potentially other industry experts.
Yeah.
And this lets students bypass a lot of the common mistakes and navigate the complexities of government contracting more effectively.
Right.
Paco emphasizes, the sheer volume of government contracts that are available. There are something like 30,000 new ones posted every single day.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and the surprisingly low percentage of U.S. businesses that are actually registered to bid on them.
Oh wow! So this creates a lot of opportunity, even for individuals or businesses that act as brokers and subcontract the work out.
So it's about understanding, a really huge market that maybe a lot of people don't even know about.
Right.
And are there any early success stories from the Academy?
Yeah, actually, Paco mentioned that in the Academy's first year, their students have already won over $1 million in government contracts.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. And they've also set up a financing arm to help contractors who don't have the initial capital that's often required to fulfill a contract.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things I was wondering about, that initial $300 million deal. How did they actually finance something that big?
Well, they use something called a factoring agreement with Wells Fargo.
Okay.
So basically, Wells Fargo would pay them immediately upon delivery of goods, minus a finance charge, of course. Right. And then Wells Fargo would be responsible for collecting the full payment from the government, which usually operates on a net 30 payment cycle.
Right.
So this gave them the cash flow they needed to fund the subsequent shipments and fulfill the entire contract.
So they found a clever way around that.
Yeah.
Okay. So reflecting on Paco's journey, what are some of the big takeaways here? Like what are the essential skills that really stand out?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is the importance of sales, persuasion, and influence in all aspects of business.
Sure.
He stressed that these skills aren't just for closing deals with customers, but they're also critical for for convincing partners to collaborate,
Right.
persuading employees to buy into your vision, and navigating complex negotiations.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to sell your idea
Yeah.
to everybody to get it off the ground.
Exactly.
And he actually went on to say that communication skills are the #1 determinant of earning potential.
Yeah.
So that's a really key takeaway. I mean, no matter what you do, being a good communicator is crucial.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he gave examples of like Elon Musk with electric vehicles and Jeff Bezos transforming online retail.
Right.
And he pointed out how their ability to articulate their vision and influence others was really key to their success.
Yeah.
He also talked about how humanity really relies on networks and relationships.
Right.
And he even said that highly skilled individuals often struggle to achieve sustainable success in isolation.
Right.
So building and nurturing those relationships is really crucial. Okay, so let's bring this deep dive to a close. What are the key lessons for you, the listener, to take away from David Paco's remarkable story?
Well, I think Paco's journey really shows us, the audacity that's required to pursue ambitious objectives, even at a young age.
Right.
Like he did with that massive government contract.
Right.
It also highlights the critical role of meticulous research and strategic negotiation as essential tools for achieving your goals.
Absolutely.
But it also serves as a cautionary tale about the risks and consequences of ethical lapses in judgment.
Yeah.
And finally, it's a really inspiring example of the resilience and adaptability that's required to pivot and find success in totally new and unexpected fields. After you face major setbacks.
Absolutely, and it's just filled with those surprising turns and those aha moments that you, the listener, are always looking for.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn more about David Paco, where can you find him?
You can follow him on social media.
Okay.
He's David Paco, Pakou, on Instagram and Twitter, or X, I guess, as it's known now.
Right.
And David M. Paco on TikTok.
Okay.
His music technology company is singularsound.com.
Okay.
Instafloss is instafloss.com.
Got it.
And if you're interested in the War Dogs Academy, you can visit wogsacademy.com.
Perfect.
He also mentioned a new project called Comet Compass,
Okay.
which is cometcompass.com.
Great. So lots of resources there if you want to go do a little more exploring.
Right.
So as we kind of wrap this up, here's a final thought for you to consider. How do those fundamental skills of negotiation and communication, that we saw demonstrated throughout Paco's experiences, how do they apply to your current endeavors, whether they be professional aspirations or personal goals?
Right.
Is there a deal or an objective that that maybe seems impossible right now that you could actually achieve with a more strategic and persuasive approach?
That's a good question.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you on the next one.